Hi, this is Fred Green, host of the Golf Smarter podcast. But you're listening to Golf Smarter Mulligans, which was launched when we noticed that the older episodes of Golf Smarter were just as valuable and relevant to our global audience as the new content. But they were no longer available on any podcast app. Now, back in 2009, we first met Tony Manzoni doing a testimonial for a new training aid. But he and I connected, as he did with our audience, so he brought him back regularly. And every time he was on, we received email requests for more of his helpful instruction. Unfortunately, we lost Tony to cancer in 2018 when he was 82, but we were so blessed to keep his legacy and his teaching alive. Which is why each spring we launch the new golf season with reruns of the best of Tony Manzoni. Now, this is the sixth in our series of 9 episodes that run from the beginning of March through the end of April. To learn more about Tony and the tax-deductible fund we created in his memory to benefit the first tee of Coachella Valley, please go to golfsmarter.com/Tony. Now, in this episode, Tony refers to an article that he wrote for Golf Illustrated. We've not been able to find it, but if you do or know how we can share it, please get in touch with me. Now, Tony's book, The Lost Fundamental, One Simple Move, Better Golf Forever, is available on Amazon, and his DVD of the same name can only be seen online through our private channel. To gain access, please click on the Hey Fred button at golfsmarter.com or email golfsmarterpodcast@gmail.com.
Welcome to Golf Smarter Mulligans, your second chance to gain insight and advice from the best instructors featured on the Golf Smarter podcast. Great golf instruction never gets old. Our interview library features hundreds of hours of game improvement conversations like this that are no longer available in any podcast app.
I can honestly tell you that when my article came out in Golf Illustrated, I got a lot of emails from people that bought their book and bought their tapes and said, I can't do this, it hurts my back, but when I tried your method, I could hit the ball. Now, does that mean I'm right? No, it just means that some people think that my method is easier. I do know one thing. Ben Hogan rotated through the golf ball. He didn't tilt. He was what we call posted straight up and down when he hit a golf ball. He did not tilt back. His chest was left of the target, and he was always in perfect balance.
With another interview from the archives of Golf Smarter, here's your host, Fred Green.
This seems to be your creation, your discovery. Not your creation, obviously you're basing it on what you're watching from Hogan, but even if you were to put in a search engine on the internet, single pivot swing, it's going to pop back up with stack and tilt.
Yeah, and it's not, and believe me when I tell you, the only similarity is that we set up more weight left, but that's the only similarity. Stack and tilt is totally different than what I do, and God bless them. Yeah. That's their method. I don't talk about their method because it's not my method, and it's not what I believe. And I'm sure they're just as passionate about their method. Heck, they wrote a book and they did a tape. But I can honestly tell you that when my article came out in Golf Illustrated, I got a lot of emails from people that bought their book and bought their tapes and said, I can't do this, it hurts my back, but when I tried your method, I could hit the ball. Now, does that mean I'm right? No, it just means that some people think that my method is easier. I do know one thing. Ben Hogan rotated through the golf ball. He didn't tilt. He was stacked. He was what we call posted straight up and down when he hit a golf ball. He did not tilt back. His chest was left of the target, and he was always in perfect balance. He didn't go down and search for that golf ball. He didn't need to do that. He could turn to the ball. He cleared his right side. And his early swings, he was very long with the swing. And his swing looked the same, but there was a big change in his golf swing. His knee position was more towards the ball as he turned. In his later years, his knee jetted straight out to the left foot, as did a gentleman by the name of James Barnes in the 20s with hickory shafts. So again, that wasn't Hogan's invention. It was I'm sure Ben found that if when his knee worked that way, he was more balanced and braced, because that's the whole key here, is that your body has to be ready to make a really athletic move. And when it's drifting right and drifting left like a willow, there's nothing athletic about that.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that you haven't mentioned yet as a comparison or even its relevance are the other terms that we hear so frequently are the single and two plane swing.
Yeah, and Jim Hardy, is it Jim Hardy? Yeah. Mm-hmm. He wrote the book, On Plane Swing and the Single Plane Swing, and he's a very fine teacher, and he even shows that Hogan got a little bit on his left side when he does his demonstrations. I believe that the body rotation puts the club in a position, just like when you're going to throw a baseball, you kind of wind up, but there's no specific position that you put your arm in. Your arm goes to a place where your body feels strong so that you can make a hard throw. And I think the golf swing has to be that way. I think that when we set up properly, and if we're not changing our spine angle, if we just rotate the body and keep the arms connected to the body, that they're going to find the position that you should be in. I have never believed that you should try to get your wrist hinged at the top or flat at the top. I think that hurts people primarily because they're thinking about their hands and their position, and you can't shut that off at the top. You're going to be thinking about your hands and trying to get that club flat at impact. And I've got scores of film of me hitting a golf ball where my left wrist is flat, and I can tell you that I have never tried to get my left wrist flat. I believe lag and all of that they're the consequence of doing something before that. So as I rotate and that club is being pulled, that club is going to be lagged, and my left wrist will have to be flat. When my body stops and the club goes forward, that's when my left wrist is going to hinge and it's going to cup. That's when you hit the ball weak, but that's because the body stopped. Okay. But there's no way that you can bring your arms down and try to keep your left wrist flat. I mean, that's insanity. I see people hurt themselves doing that, and they hit everything weak right. And yet there are people that are teaching that today. And that's one of the things that I've always said. I'm a PGA member since 1965, and not one person from the PGA has ever come over and said, okay, let me see what you're doing to make sure you're not making people crazy here. And I think that there's our teachers that are teaching out of a book, and they're just not cognizant of why things happen. There's cause and effect, and the left wrist being flat at impact is an effect of something else. It is not because you purposely try to keep your left wrist flat. I mean, that's ludicrous. You're moving too fast. There's too much weight forward, especially when you have a driver in your hand, even though it may be 15 ounces or so. The weight of that club head is enormous as it's moving through time. And if your body stops, that weight is going to flip your hands. I don't care how strong you are. They're gonna cup. And that's why a lot of people, when they go to hit the ball hard, they hit that sky shot. They go straight up in the air, and they get that mark on the top of their club.
Yep.
I know there's a lot of people out there now nodding their head.
I'm raising my hand. I'm one of those people.
Yeah, okay, but that's because you pull the club down steep, the club head turns over, and you make contact with the top of the club, not the face, the top, okay? Well, that's because the body's still and the arms are down. They're coming down, and nothing is releasing except the arms. I can remember so many times when I'm from another era. I played with persimmon woods, and I'd have these pure woods, and I'd try on a par 5 to kill the ball, and there'd be a big white spot on the top of my club, and I just hated myself for that.
Yep.
But I never knew why I did it. I always thought I was going underneath the ball, but you can't go under the ball.
Yeah, how many times do you see people go, I need to tee it up higher? Or change their tee position after they do that.
It's nothing about that. So all of those things, the golf god was whispering in my ear, hey, you see what you just did? Do you know why? And finally, my inquisitive nature, and I was driven by the passion not to play any better anymore, but to be able to teach people. And also when I want to demonstrate, I don't have to think, God, I hope I don't shank this one or something like that. I mean, I don't have those thoughts anymore, especially when my kids are all, like I say, really solid players. I've got a 15-year-old that's blasting it in the 60s all the time, and he hits it about 320 off the tee, and he's 15 years old. I want to slap him. But when I'm trying to tell him to do this a little bit more, I've got to get up there and be able to produce. I've got to get up there and say, okay, watch this. I'm going to hit this 5-iron. It's going to be dead straight. I'm going to hit it at that yellow flag, and I'm going to make it fall right just a little bit. And I can do that. I have no fear about doing that in front of anybody, because I know there's a mathematical thing going on. If my left arm is trapped against my chest and I rotate my chest, my club's coming into that ball square. So if I align myself properly, and those conditions stay in place, I'm going to hit that ball. Now, have I ever hit it when I was trying to do this? Have I ever pulled one or pushed one? Absolutely. But I knew exactly what happened. And I'll say my arms went first that time, and I reconnect, bam, I hit it perfect. So there's no doubt in my mind that this works. There's no doubt in my mind that anybody can do this, male, female, young, or old. And I think it's what the master figured out. And I've just kind of add little signature things in there that I think are very, that relate to what he was trying to do, and then make it easier. Again, the setup, you have to be set up against the wall, against the brace, and you can't let your lower body go underneath your top of you so that it slides under, because it's got to slide back the other way, and then you're in Chinatown. I mean, it's over. Sell the clubs, buy a dog.
Go for a walk. If you're going to go for a walk, don't hit anything. You mentioned how, when you talked about popping the ball up off the tee, and then everyone always has advice about where your tee placement was. The other thing that I frequently see from armchair golf instructors are the people who say, "Oh, you lifted your head. Oh, you lifted your head. Oh, you lifted your head." And
that's just it's insanity. I show people. I have a number of. Because in the golf management program, there's a lot of boys that came in to learn the business, but they're not really skilled in golf. They're double-digit handicaps, and I get them out there, and I try to feed them a little bit of this and try to help them. And they top the ball on occasion, and I say to them, "Do you know why you topped that golf ball?" They say, "Well, I looked up." I said, "Are you sure? Are you sure you looked up?" And they say, "Oh, yeah, I looked up." And I said, "Well, let me show you something. You watch my head. I'm gonna hold my head dead still, and you're gonna see my eyes are gonna be on that golf ball, and I'm gonna hit the very top of that golf ball. Now, I don't have timing enough to swing this club 70 miles an hour with an iron and hit the very top of that skin, but I'm going to do that. And I'll top that ball. I'll make a really hard swing, and then the ball will go 4 or 5 feet, and they'll say, "How'd you do that?" And it's real easy. I anticipated impact. So what happens when you anticipate impact? You clinch. So when you tighten your hands, your arms get shorter. They pull in towards you, and that's why you top the golf ball. So for people out there that top it a lot, especially with that fairway wood, it's because they're hitting to the golf ball. So there's only one cure for this. You got to be brave, number one. You got to set up to that golf ball so that you don't get way behind it and then you're trying to catch up. You got to focus on where you're going to go with your body and the club head and not the golf ball. So when you get it to the coil, let's just say that's phase one of a 2-part swing, then you got to unwind to the second part and hold that position. Look pretty. Look like someone's taking a picture of your follow through. And if you get your mind off of impact, then you'll quit trying to hit. And when you hit, you won't have that response. So for everyone that's topping the ball, I can promise you're tightening up, not looking up.
That is phenomenal observation. I mean, I even had a listener write me and said once that his dad always used to say to him, "If you lift your head, the only thing you're going to see is a bad golf shot." But again, it's all about the lifting up. And to me, when I watch Annika, it always looks like she's lifting her head before she hits the ball.
Well, she looks like she's looking at the target because she rotated her body, and because her head and eyes move were moving following the ball. That's another thing. You don't stay down when you hit a golf ball. You let your eyes release. You have to, because if your head stays looking to the right and you're trying to turn left, your head is going to block your rotation. So you've got to release your eyes. I mean, that's been said forever. There's a lot of great players, but David Duvall at one time, and it's a shame that he moved away from his original swing. But that left arm was so across the chest. He had that club face shut at the top, but it didn't really matter because he just rotated through the golf ball, and his eyes were really down the target line when he was hitting the golf ball. He was looking where he wanted the ball to go. And Annika did the same thing because, typically, if you're staying in your spine angle, you don't want to focus on the golf ball anyway. I mean, they're old saying, a good player sense where the ball is and bad players stare at it. And there's... And there's a lot to be said about that, because if you get stuck looking at that golf ball or looking at a dimple on that ball and all that baloney that we've been told to do, you're going to stay on that ball and you're going to shut down your swing, because the ball is not the golf swing. The ball is the center of the swing. You're going to decelerate like crazy if you're focusing on the back of the ball or anything, and you're going to use your hands. Your body's going to stay behind the ball. I mean, you're going to be just still when you're hitting it instead of active, and that's why so many people hit so short. I mean, I had a guy recently come up to me, about 6'3", and he says, "Well, I'm fairly new at the game. I've been playing about a year." I said, "Okay, well, tell me about you. So how far do you hit a driver?" He says, "Oh, I hit it about 165, 170." And I said, "You should be able to throw it that far, for God's sake, with your size." And when I got through with him, he was 230, 240, because his size was there. The length, he had a very long arm and then a club on top of it, so he had a huge lever, but he didn't know what to do with the lever. And so all of these things, they all relate. If your body's in the wrong position, I don't care how strong you are, you can't hit the golf ball very far. I used to give lessons to Gene Upshaw years and years ago when he was with the Oakland Raiders. And Gene was a massive man, and I weighed 150 pounds, and I just drilled it by him. I mean, 100 yards, okay? And he'd say, "How can you hit it so far? My leg's bigger than you," and blah, blah, blah. But when he got right, when he figured out where to be instinctively, because he was an athlete, he hit it 2 miles. And I didn't know all of this then, but you get there every now and then. Do you understand what I mean? Every now and then you clock one and you say, "What did I do there?" Well,
right.
Your body was in the place. Well, now I know where that place is. That's the thing. I know where to put you. And you're gonna hit the ball farther, you're gonna hit the ball straighter, and it's not hard. I have people say, "Well, how many lessons do I have?" And I say, 1, maybe 2. And then I can pass it on to you, and then you'll know every time you hit the golf ball what that ball is doing. Will tell you what you did or did not do.
Well, when I come down to Palm Springs, I'm going to spend some time with you.
I promise you, it's not going to take a lot of time, and you don't have to be a great athlete. You don't have to be young and springy. You can be just a regular guy that doesn't have 8 hours a day to practice, and I'll show you how to hit the ball and hit it solid. And I mean, that's a flat guarantee.
I love it. I love that kind of flat guarantee. That is confidence, and that's what the game's about. It's having that confidence.
Well, I've been at this a long time. I've made my bones, as they say. I know how to teach golf, and I've been doing this since, I've been a pro since '65, but it's really the last 15 years that I've learned how to swing the golf club. And I just wish I had done this a little earlier. And really, and where I really was sure it was right, it's probably been the last 6 or 7 years. And now there's a couple of guys on the tour I'm not going to mention, but I just wish I could have a conversation with them. I don't want any money. I don't want anything. In fact, I would do it anonymously. But unfortunately, egos, they're not going to say, "Well, hey, there's a guy on a driving range that could really help you." It's just not going to happen. No. But just for the sake of the game,
Yeah. So when do you come back from China?
I'm going to be there a week. Hopefully, that's going to be all. I mean, I'm enamored with it, but I have so much to do on this side of the pond that I've got to catch up. But I want to really try to to get some golf academies there and teach people how to operate a facility, because it doesn't make sense to me that they're going to build 10,000 golf courses in the next 5 or 6 years, and that's on the drawing board, that their own people can't operate them. It doesn't make sense to me that they have to get somebody from Australia or America or whatever to run their golf courses. They should build their own base of employees, so it benefits them. Right. Just like we have here. We don't have to call someone in Australia to run a golf course here, and that's what they need. So they need junior programs, and they need some management programs so they get an understanding. This is not rocket science. The golf industry is a service-oriented business. You accommodate people, you anticipate what they're going to say before they do it, and you're ready to perform that accommodation. And that's it. Learning to fold a shirt or sell a set of clubs, come on, we can all do that. But the secret of this business is to make people feel welcome and not, when they walk through the door, not look at them and say, well, that guy's not going to spend any money. You don't qualify people in this business, nor should you in life, for that matter. Right. But that's the secret of this business, and I've been lucky because that was taught to me as a young man, and I've made a lot of money in the golf industry in times when people didn't make money, and it's what I pass on to my students so that they can go out there and they can become successful.
Well, if you received 2 phone calls from the last episode that we barely even scratched the surface on the single pivot swing, I'm hoping you're going to get a lot more emails and phone calls. I will make sure to post your email address on our blog site, and you told me tmanzoni at collegeofthedesert.edu, correct?
That's correct.
And then let's let them contact you that way, unless you want to give the phone number that I contacted you at. That's this one?
If they want, they can call me on my cellular phone. Okay. If they don't agree with me, please don't call me and call me a bunch of names. I get enough of that on a daily basis.
If you don't agree, call me. Just get a hold of me, and we'll do that.
My cell phone is 760-534. 3190, and you have my email. And anyone that's interested in trying to find out more, if they're a little bit confused, drop me a note or give me a call, and I'll be happy to help them in any way that I can.
Well, like I said, I'm going to try to come down to the Palm Springs area around the first part of 2011, and if I do, and we get a chance to get together, I hope that you'll allow me to bring a video camera and maybe even put a little bit of video on here so we can get that on Golf Smarter TV too to show people, because based on this information and the emails that I've received, they want more information. They are intrigued by what you're saying and want to know more, so we've got to get it out there.
Well, that's great, and I really do appreciate the opportunity to tell you all this stuff, because it's like I feel like I have lightning in a bottle right now, and it's trying to get out, and I want to get it out, and not so much to praise myself, but to help people with this game, because it's such a fantastic game, and to suffer with it, like I know I did for many years, is ridiculous. If you get the right amount of information, it isn't that complicated. We're not building a rocket here, okay? We're swinging a club, and if we just play on an axis and rotate around that axis, it makes it so much easier.